Hi everyone, it's TheTidesChanging here, and welcome to another speed build. Today I'm making a house that I've named Fairytale Cottage, which is just a small, folksy looking cottage surrounded by a lot of landscaping and flowers to give it that fairy tale look. It was actually suggested in the comments of another speed build that I make a fairy tale type cottage, and I thought it was a really interesting idea, and I had wanted to do a smaller build but wasn't sure what to do, and then, a couple other people commented saying that they would like to see that, so I decided why not give it a try. This house actually took me longer than I expected it to. When I started working on it, I was like, this will be a speed build that's, under 20 minutes or so, and then I ended up spending a lot of time on the landscaping, so this house actually took me about 4 hours to do, and that's not counting the failed attempts at doing it before I actually got the successful one. When I first started trying to build this fairy tale themed house, I, for some reason, kept trying to make cottages like this, but that were large family house styled. And that didn't exactly look right, that didn't really go with the whole look of a small cottage buried in a large garden. So I kept doing multiple attempts at making larger ones and then just scrapping them, and then when I got to this one, I cut it out, but there was a bit where I was trying to make it larger and I ended up making this large 2-floor area in the back of this cottage right here. So it just looked like a small cottage stuck on a larger house, which looked really odd, so I ended up just taking out the whole back area and leaving it as this smaller, simple structure. And that looks, looks a lot better just to keep it simple. And something surprising about this house is that as small as it looks, it's actually 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, so it can actually be used as a family house, which, looking at this, you wouldn't really think that it had that many bedrooms or bathrooms, but that little bumped out area in the back there is the master bedroom, and then there's a bathroom in that area that's bumped out on the side. And then upstairs there is 2 bedrooms and another bathroom, and the bedrooms and the bathroom upstairs are pretty small though, but they are kids' bedrooms, so they don't need to be terribly big. And it is nice that the kids kind of have their own separate floor from, where the master bedroom is on the first floor. And the master bedroom actually is pretty big. I'm not sure, I can't remember the exact dimensions of it, but I did fit a good bit in there, right? And right now I'm just going through working out the floor plan. I feel like things fit in really nicely with the interior of this house, although I did move the house back another tile, made another tile longer, because when I was doing the floor plan for the upstairs, I realized that in order to fit the stairs in, one of the bedrooms would have to be 3x3, which is really, really small for a bedroom. That's the size that I usually made bathrooms, so I wanted both the bedrooms to be 3x4 tiles, so I just made the house a little bit longer to fit that in. And I mean, that's still pretty small, but it's, you can fit in a bed and a good bit of other stuff. And I ran into this weird glitch where I moved the house, and when I moved it to a certain spot, the roofs came through into it, and I couldn't delete any of the walls, or I mean, the walls of the roofs came through into the house, and I couldn't delete them, so I had to move it back to another spot to get rid of them. I thought that was really weird, and I was worried I was getting that glitch that some people were getting, where they would get a wall that they couldn't delete. But fortunately, I just moved the house back to where it was, and that went away, and, the walls went away, and everything was fine. But here I'm going through and adding all the windows in, and I use the shutter windows because, of course, that's really the best for a fairy tale type house, and I'm just putting some flowers underneath of them to go with that theme, and doing the doors in the interior, of course. You may have noticed it, but the downstairs bathroom fits nicely between the stairs and the edge of the bump out area down there, which I really liked because it you have the foyer area on the one side, and then the kitchen fits in nicely on the other side of the bathroom. And you'll see more of that when I get into the interior, of course. But now I just did the railings and spandrels and columns for both the decks, and I was trying to figure out the wall paintings for the exterior, but I had a lot of issues because at the time when I was making this, I got to the wallpaper and I was like, crap, what type of walls do fairy tale houses have? And I drew a blank, so I just slapped on some random wallpaper. So I just put on this wood paneling and some rock, and then left it because I was like, you know what, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna put this here and then come back to it another day. So yeah, I just left that there and then moved on to some other stuff. And then the next day when I wanted to continue the build, I went in and actually changed the wallpaper because I wanted to look on Google for some inspiration to figure out what type of wallpapers fairytale cottages typically have, and I do that a lot. Like if I'm building and I get stuck on something that I'm doing and I don't want to quit the game and look up inspiration on Google, I just move on to something else and then come back to it the next time I go into the game. But here I'm starting on the landscaping, and there is a lot of it, and that's really what took up the bulk of the time as far as making this house goes, because I just stuck in a ton of plants and a ton of trees all over the place. more so than I have been lately. I know in the last B build I was saying how I had a tendency to fill lots with too much landscaping, that I was trying to work on it. And then of course this is the next build and I'm here making a house with a ton of landscaping. But it was on purpose though, because you know, when you look up Fairytale Cottage, there's a lot of them, you'll see a lot of flowers and a lot of trees around it. You know, it looks almost like it's in a forest or kind of a magical garden. So I wanted to have that look for this house, you know, give it kind of an eccentric look, like someone just stuck a ton of plants all over the place. And for the garden of this house, I didn't do it in the symmetrical, more landscaped looking way that I have been lately. I just stuck the plants randomly all over the place to give it a natural look, like someone just threw a bunch of seeds and, you know, wanted to see what would pop up. And I did border the path with those low shrubs, though. That's the only really landscapey thing about it right now. I was gonna border with rocks, but I didn't want to because that really wouldn't look natural at all. And like I said, I wanted to give it a look like these plants just naturally kind of grew like this on their own. Or I mean, I guess, you know, someone would have had to stick the seeds in there, but you know, like I said, like someone just threw a ton of seeds and wanted to see what would come, which I think some people do. I remember someone telling me that some people will just throw a bunch of seeds and then they'll see what kind of flowers of what they threw grew, because there's some seeds that you can get where you just dump them on the ground. I don't know, I'm not really a gardening expert, so that might just be a common thing for flower seeds where people just throw them on the ground instead of burying them, I'm not sure. But now moving on to the garden on the other side of the house. And there's also a path going from around the back over to the street because this house is a corner lot, so I figured there should be paths going to both sides of the street. And I also went with that more subtle rock pattern because I figured that would really go best with a more natural looking garden. And now I'm just laying out some more of those low-lying shrubs to mark off the garden. I did initially make the garden over here way too big. It took up a good bit of the yard. Placing the plants here, of course, did take me quite a while because there's so many of them. Like I said, that took up the bulk of this house building. That's why this sped up is 28 minutes rather than, you know, like under 20 minutes like I thought it would be. But it was pretty enjoyable. Like, it was actually kind of relaxing to just sit there and place all these plants. You know, I got sort of a trance with it, and it was actually rather relaxing and enjoyable to do, surprisingly. I can only imagine the amount of work that it would take to maintain a garden like this. Like, can you imagine the weeding on something like this? At least this isn't like, I think it was a Sims 1 where you had to weed and water all the plants that you planted. I'm pretty sure it was a Sims 1. Maybe you had to do it in The Sims 2 also, but I remember always putting a ton of flowers around my houses in The Sims and then having to hire a gardener because it would take, you know, I kept forgetting to have my Sims go out and garden and then everything would die. But I'm pretty sure that was the original Sims, and maybe The Sims 2, but I'm kind of glad that they made it so you didn't have to water every plant that you planted in Sims 3 and 4. It really makes it a lot easier so you can just plant stuff without having to worry about it. Right now I'm just finishing up the last bit of gardening that goes around the front of the house here, and this is actually, after I finish this garden, is the point at which I came back another day and decided to actually fix up the wallpaper on this house. So when I looked up Fairytale Cottages, I noticed that most of them had a combination of stucco and paneling. So I was trying to look through the paneling to find something that, you know, worked well, but the thing with the paneling is that there wasn't really a plain wall that matched the exact colors that were on it. So I was trying to put the paneling up on the upper floors because that's what I saw a lot of the time, but since there were no matching plain walls, I decided to just go with the plain stucco wall in a white color, and then I also put a rock wall pattern on the areas that bumped out just to add something a little bit different so it's not all just plain boring stucco. And I actually do really like how that looks. You know, it definitely goes with the theme pretty well because, like I said, that's what I saw a lot of the fairytale houses that I looked at. And here I'm going through and changing the colors of all the windows and shutters to be blue. You know, I figure it'd be good to have them be a nice color rather than something plain like white. And then here I was changing the color on the decks because I didn't really like that older looking lighter color wood, and plus it was too much light colors because, you know, the stucco is a very light color. And then I decided to change the shutters from blue to green because I felt like I had been using blue shutters a lot, and I also felt like it would go better with the whole natural theme, you know, with the trees and all of that. So the green definitely is a nice look, and then I even went on to change the spandrels, columns, and rails to be green to give it a little bit more of a whimsical look. And then I changed the stairs to green because it didn't really look right to have white staircases with, you know, everything else being green. And now I'm just going through and doing all the nighttime lighting. And after that, I did go on to I did go on to change the roof edges to be green as well, just to give lots of interesting green accents. And then same with the foundation, I just used the concrete foundation with the green accent, which I think that all looks really nice, and it adds to that fairy tale look, you know, having all the green accents in places I typically wouldn't have green accents, because I use that color in areas that I normally would just use plain white in, like on the roof edges. Now I'm going back to the garden though, because there is a lot more work to do on it, and I thought it'd be really nice to have a big willow tree and then place a bench underneath of it. I thought that would add to that nice magical look, and now I'm just extending the garden to go out even further. So yeah, it looked a little bit ridiculous when I made it this large, but I don't know, I thought it would look nice to have it, you know, go up to the edge of the path going to the bench, and then also go around that other tree that I placed there. So now I'm just going through and adding a ton more plants in there as well. The next 7 or so minutes of this video is just doing the gardening, so I wanted to talk about something else. So in the previous speed build, I said that I was going to work on a really large Spanish mansion, and what I probably would do was start on it, take a break, then put up another speed build, so it wasn't a really long time between speed builds. But I actually haven't started on it at this point, and that's because I remember that there was a patch with a pool in it coming out sometime next month. I'm not sure when, so I figured it would be best to wait until the patch was out or almost out to start on it. Because, you know, I feel like it'd be really nice to have the first house that I make with a pool be a large, luxurious mansion. And what I'll probably do is start on it, take a break, and make something really small like a starter house. That way there's not a huge gap between speed builds, because if I take a break from it and make a house that might take 2 or 3 weeks to make, that sort of defeats the purpose of doing another build, you know, taking a break from it to do another build to lessen the time between speed builds. But something I did need to talk about is that I do need to slow down on speed builds a little bit, because I've been uploading them fairly frequently. Like, there was the 1 week where I uploaded like 3 within a week when I was setting up for the Let's Play, and then a couple weeks later was a wedding venue, and then, you know, there's this one about a week and a half later. So yeah, so what I've been doing is just finishing house and starting on another one right away and working on it every day until it's done, and then, you know, working over the next couple days after that to get the video up. So I do need to slow down on that a bit, because the semester is starting to pick up quite a bit. You know, it's the middle of the semester, so it's getting into crunch time for projects. And this semester actually hasn't been nearly as bad as I thought it would be, which is why I've been able to upload more frequently. But I do need to focus a little bit more now that the deadlines for projects are approaching, and I also really need to focus on career fairs and applying for jobs and all of that, so I have a job for when I graduate this semester. I'm not saying that it'll be months between speed builds, it's just that instead of every 1 to 2 weeks or so, it might be 3 to 4 or maybe even 5 weeks between speed builds. Like I said, I just need to slow down on it a little bit, because speed builds take a good bit more time to make than Let's Plays and Let's Builds do. But to make up for less frequent speed builds, I will be starting another Let's Build soon, probably in a couple of weeks or so, because I do have some deadlines for school to take care of. And I'll probably put an information video up about it in a week or so, because I just want to talk a little bit more about what I wanted to do with the Let's Build, and I also wanted to have a poll, because I have a couple of ideas for what I want to do for the Let's Build. So I wanted to make a poll so you all could vote on what you want me to do in the series. And I will be doing this Let's Build real time like the last one that I did, rather than recording and speeding it up 3 times and doing the post commentary over it like I did in the past with The Sims 3. And that's because I actually really enjoyed doing the real time Let's Builds. It made it a lot more easy and enjoyable for me to do, because I didn't have to worry about sitting there and doing post commentary afterwards. Because post commentary actually does take a while to do. Like, for example, 20 minutes of commentary can take me an hour or 2 to do. So, you know, when you have to do that for a 15 or so minute video a couple of times a week, it gets really, really time consuming and frustrating. And, you know, I just think it'd be really fun to do a real-time speed build again and actually show more of the thought process in depth. And it also makes it a little bit more easy to follow for those of you who watch, to pick up some tricks to do. And, you know, a lot of you also seem to enjoy it the last time that I did it real time, although I know there are some of you who prefer it sped up, but, you know, unfortunately, whatever you do, there are going to be people who like the other way, so, you know, I'm just gonna do what I enjoy the most, and that's doing the real-time Let's Builds. So yeah, I'm really excited to do that and have building related videos up a little bit more often than I have been lately. I do think that this Let's Build will go quite a bit better than the last one, because I'll admit the last one was a little bit of a mess because, you know, it was a first impressions Let's Build, so I didn't know the game very well, so there's a lot of fumbling around and messing things up and exploring all the items that were in the game. So this upcoming one will move a little bit faster and go a little bit smoother. And I'll also probably be uploading it, well, I will be uploading it less frequently than I did the last one, because the last one, what happened was I didn't expect it to be as many parts as it did, so I just recorded all the parts within 2 days, and then, you know, upload them once a day, so unfortunately there wasn't as much interaction and input from you guys. But I will be uploading this one less frequently, so I can get input from you guys before each part. So it will be pre-recorded a lot less than the last one was. Like, I'll probably only record 1 or 2 parts at a time, so I can get feedback from you guys more often and incorporate it more often. So I'm really looking forward to starting that over the next couple weeks and doing another Let's Build series. And at this point, I'm getting near the end of the gardening of the house, and I went back and decided to add some plants on the other side of the path because I felt like it looked a little bit off to have plants only on the one side. You know, it looked a little bit off balance. So I'm just going through and completely bordering the path with plants, which I think looks really nice, and it also adds to that magical look, you know, like you're just walking through a plant-lined path. And I really do like how the landscaping on this house turned out, even if it is a little bit busy. It looks really nice, and I did reduce the size of the garden on the other side of the house. I think I already did that at this point, or I'm gonna do it soon because I looked at it and I was like, okay, you know, that's a little bit ridiculously big, and I felt like it was a little bit much. So I think at this point I actually haven't done it yet, so I go to do that after I finish bordering these paths, which I'm actually about finished with. So yeah, once I put all this stuff in, I go through and take out a ton of that garden beside the house because it was ridiculous and overpowering, and it was a bit much. It was a bit much, so I felt like it really needed to be reduced, so I'm going through and doing that here. I definitely think it looks a lot better with a lot of those plants in there taken out. You know, it makes things look a lot less ridiculous. I was actually thinking of covering the entire lot in flowers and plants, but then I realized that would look a little bit ridiculous. It would look like a little bit much. I also was thinking of bordering it in either the hedge fence or just using one of those low-lying shrubs to border the yard with, but then that also looked quite busy and it looked a little bit odd. So I decided not to do that because I feel like that would be a little bit much. And I also added another tree in there because after I took out those plants, I feel like I need to have something in there. So I stuck that nice big oak tree in there, and I used a lot more plants in this house than I normally would because I wanted to give the garden a really nice lush look to it. And I also threw in a garden gnome there because I felt like a garden gnome would just be perfect for a fairy cottage. And then I put some more lawn type decorations on the porch there. You know, you got another gnome and that little rabbit decoration. I also put a grill in back there. And now I'm putting in some of those little garden themed knickknacks to make the garden look more used. You know, like I put a little water pail and some, I think it was like supposed to be a seed starter kit or something like that. But at this point, I have finally moved on to the interior after about 20 minutes of doing the exterior. So about 2/3 of the time I spent on this house was on the interior. I spent so much more time on, or I mean actually 2/3 of the time spent on this house was on the exterior. Usually it's the other way around where most of the time is spent on the interior, but the interior of this house actually only took me about an hour, I think, or maybe it was more like an hour and a half, but that's actually pretty quick for me because usually I spend a ton of time on the interior. So I moved through the interior of this house pretty quick actually, and I used a lot of the older themed furniture because I feel like that was really what would work best in a fairy cottage. And it does have modern amenities like TV and a computer, but I didn't use the most high-tech stuff. Like I used that older style television there rather than a flat screen one because I felt like they would fit in better. But I wanted to have an old-fashioned. There isn't a lot of fairy-themed furniture. Actually, there isn't really any fairy-themed furniture with The Sims 4. So I figured that using older-looking furniture would, it would do the job. It would, work pretty well. And I really do like the look. I try to go for a bit of an eccentric look also for this place. I thought that the lime green color that I used on the couches and chairs there would be a really interesting color to use and would kind of go with the somewhat eccentric theme I had a little bit. And this whole open area here, the living room, dining room, and kitchen, which is all somewhat open to each other, I spent a good bit of time on. That's where the majority of the time spent on the interior went to. I actually moved through the bedrooms and the bathrooms pretty quick, and I was originally going to put that desk that's there behind the couches in the foyer area, because I figured, since there was a tile space between the front door and the wall, that I could fit a little office nook in there. But then I realized that it completely blocked off the area for your Sims to walk through into the rest of the house and just looked really crowded. But, I wanted to have a computer in there, so I decided to just put it behind the couch there in between the living room and the dining room area, because I wasn't sure what to put there anyway, so I figured that would work best. And now I'm just coming back over to the foyer area and putting in a nice little plant, and of course some shoe racks also, because, that's of course perfect stuff for the foyer. And then I took out that ceiling light because I thought that it looked weird having those ceiling lights so close to each other. So I just stuck a floor lamp in there next to the TV instead to add a little bit of light in there, and I was also trying to figure out what to do for a rug in that area, because I wasn't sure whether to just have the rug in front of the door there or to have another one in the middle, so I felt like the one in front of the door looked the best. And now I'm moving on to the kitchen, so the kitchen fits in nicely in the area between the bathroom and the back of the house, like I said before. So I thought it'd be interesting to have it kind of set apart by these island counters here, so it isn't completely open to the dining area. It's kind of its own little room, but not really a separate room, and I do like how that looks. And, I used a wall there also, so it looks kind of, it's kind of like a door, but not really a door, if that makes sense. I felt like that was a really interesting look, and this is a very small kitchen, and I decided to use the older-fashioned fridge and stove that is used in the Goth's house, because I felt like that would go with the whimsical, eccentric kind of a thing, having those really old appliances in there. I'm not sure if it maybe looks a little bit odd or not, but, I felt like for a Fairytale Cottage, that's what would work the best. And then I once again did that thing where I used the smaller cabinets to border up to the window that was 2 tiles wide. And then in that corner there, I also used a corner counterpiece, and I was worried that that looked a little bit odd because of there's the corner cabinet above that, which is shaped a little bit differently. I don't know. I was worried that that looked a little bit odd. And then I had some trouble trying to figure out what kind of floor tile to use, so I ended up just using those stone tile, that stone floor there originally. And then now I'm moving on to furnishing the dining room area. So I put that hutch there because I wasn't sure what else to put on the wall, and I wanted to have one in there anyway, and that was the only spot where it would really fit. And then I'm just going through and adding paintings to the other walls in there as well. And then I did go in and change the tile in the kitchen to be that blue one, because I didn't exactly like how the stone tile looked. And now I'm putting in the dining room, so the dining table and chairs. So I just used the same chair that I used at the desk, and then made it the same lime green color originally. And then I decided to change the colors of the bar stools, because I felt like it looked a little bit weird having the chairs and the bar stools be the same color. And then I did have a little bit of trouble deciding what rug to put in there, so I just put that smaller one in there under just a table, because whenever I used any larger ones, it looked a little bit odd. And then I was messing around changing the color of the chair because I felt like it looked, I think it was originally the same color, same lime green color, so I wanted it to be something different. And then I also changed the curtains for being blue because I felt like the blue looked a little bit odd in there. At this point though, I'm moving on to doing the wallpaper since all the furniture is pretty much in there. And I did want to use a lighter color in this house because I felt like it would look really nice just to have it be very bright and cheerful. And plus I also have this tendency to go for really dark, rich colors, so I wanted to do something a little bit different and go brighter, although whenever I use bright colors, I always worry that it looks too bland, which is why I have a tendency to go towards dark colors, because they look richer and they make things look a little bit less plain to me. But that's just me personally. But then again, bright colors are also nice too, because they make the rooms look a lot more open. And I did settle on that white wall with a nice fancy border. I am a little bit worried that the white wall looks a little bit too plain, but like I said, I was trying to use something a little bit different than what I normally do. And now I'm actually moving on to the downstairs bathroom, and I did use the assistance of one of the already made rooms because I really liked the objects that it had in it, and I also really wanted to use that old-fashioned shower tub combo because I haven't used it in a house yet, so I thought it'd be really nice to use it. Although I had this issue where apparently I couldn't put some curtains next to the shower, so I ended up having to use a smaller curtain that I wanted to, because I wanted to use that same really nice big curtain that I used out in the living room area, but unfortunately I couldn't. And at this point, that bathroom is actually done, so I finished that bathroom really quickly, so I'm moving on to the master bedroom now, which, like I said, is actually a surprisingly decent size for a house this small. And I did use that really nice fancy bed to go with the more old-fashioned theme that this house has, and I also used this blue lamps as well. And a really nice thing about going with a more traditional look for this house than the ones I've made so far is that I got to use some objects that I haven't used yet. You know, like I haven't used a lot of the older fashioned objects yet. So it's really nice to get a chance to use those, and you know, with the Spanish mansion that I'm going to make, I'll get a chance to use the Mediterranean items, which I of course haven't used yet. You know, I feel like this game has a strong set of Mediterranean themed items in it, but I thought it would be nice to put in a little TV nook area there in the bedroom, because I wasn't sure what to do with that space, so you know, I figured that would work well. And this house actually has the most bedrooms than any of the houses that I've made so far, because the other ones, the most bedrooms I've had were 2. So that's pretty cool that this is the largest one, or the one with the most bedrooms that I've made so far. But the furnishing is actually done, so I'm just picking out the wallpaper now. I was gonna go for a regular, you know, floor-to-ceiling wallpaper type wall, but then I decided to go for paneling just to, you know, break up some of the blue in there, because there was a lot of blue. But now the first floor is actually completely furnished, so I'm moving on to the second one. The second floor of this house consists of just a landing area, boys' bedroom, a girls' bedroom, and a small bathroom, because I wasn't sure what else to do with that bumped out area there, and it was 2x3, which is a good size for a bathroom, so I was like, you know what, that's perfect, I'll just have it be a bathroom. And I think this house actually is around 100 simoleons, which is a lot for a house that's small, but that's due to a combination of the fact that I used more expensive traditional furnishings, and a huge part of it is probably the amount of landscaping, because plants are actually pretty expensive and I put a ton of them all over the place. But right now I'm working on the boys' bedroom, and I did once again use some of the items from the pre-made rooms, just because they're really handy, because I knew what items I wanted to use, and I knew that a lot of them were in the pre-made boys' room, so I was able to just look at and just pull things out that I wanted. So it's really handy when there's things in those rooms that you know you want. You know, you don't have to go hunting through all the items to get it. And then now I'm picking out the wallpaper. I wanted to use one of the busier kid ones, but I had some trouble finding one that didn't clash with the bed too much. So I ended up just using this one that has the grass on the bottom of it. And the boys' bedroom is pretty much finished at this point. So I'm moving on to the little upstairs bathroom, and I once again used a different color variation of the same pre-made bathroom that I pulled items from for the downstairs. And I did, of course, only have to put in a 1x1 shower stall instead of the larger shower tub combo, because there was not enough room in that bathroom for it. And then I did go in and change the rug that was in the boys' bedroom, because I didn't really like the one that was in there originally. And now I'm doing the last room of the house, which is the girls' bedroom, and of course gave this a very, very girly look, you know, with the unicorn rug there, and pink all over the beds, pink all over the walls. The building portion of this video is just about over though, and you can find this house on the gallery by searching for Fairytale Cottage, or my origin ID, TheTidesChanging. This will be all from me, so I hope you all enjoy the rest of this video.